Eden Care UK is a friendly intervention service providing support to people who are terminally ill reaching end of life. We advocate for a high quality of care and enhanced life choices, and challenge the isolation of elderly people through friendship and social activities. This service would not be possible without your support. Please donate edencareuk.com or call 07957 199 328.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম। ও আমার বোনজি, তাইনার আব্বা আম্মা নাই, আমারও তো ঠিক নাই বিয়া দিবার। আর তাই তোরারে দিবা নে, আমরা দোয়া করবনি, তোরা সাহায্য করছো।
National Muslim Burial Register was established to support Muslims arrange their final rites. This service caters for Muslims who have no one to carry out their Islamic burial rites upon their death, including funeral planning and burial after their demise. Get in touch for a friendly chat and discuss our eligibility criteria. muslimburialfund.co.uk or call 07957 199 328. National Muslim Burial Register is a service offered
10 বছর
আর আম্মা
7 বছর
মানে তোর মা বাপ কেউ নাই না
না
তোকে তো বিয়া ঠিক করছনি কোনো
ও ঠিক করছি তো অনেক আজারাতা সাহায্য লাগি রে বাবা আমি থাকি আপনার কাছে আত্মাত্রাম জানে আমি ফুরি গুতারে একবার দিতাম
আমি তোমার প্রিয় হতে চাই আমি তোমার প্রিয় হতে চাই আমি তোমার প্রিয়
আমার নাম জামিলা আমি ক্লাস 7 এ পড়ি আমার আব্বা আম্মা মারা গেছেন আব্বা মারা গেছেন 3 বছর আগে আম্মা মারা গেছেন 2 বছর আগে
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sahrish Iftikhar and I am Program Officer at Eden Care UK. Today we're going to speak about the importance of befriending at the end of life care. And we're going to have two guests. One will be Usama Kayani, who is my manager at Eden Care. And we also have Eyarun Choudhury, who is a coordinator at St. Joseph's Hospice, who we work alongside with the end of life care. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves a bit better than I just did?
Go on, Eyarun, you go first. You're our guest.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So I'm Eyarun Choudhury, and like Sahrish said, that I work at St. Joseph's Hospice, which is based in Hackney, and we cover East London, so Newham, Tower Hamlets, and Hackney. Yeah, Hackney, Tower Hamlets, and Newham. I coordinate a program called the Compassionate Neighbours program, which I'll talk about a bit later.
Osama?
And my name is Usama Kayani. I'm the program manager for Eden Care UK, so managing the entire program, overlooking our befriending work and making sure that we deliver the most important service.
So the topic we've chosen today is actually something that one of our main actual programs that we have is end of life care. But what I wanted to touch on with this was actually the importance of befriending with end of life care and the support. And it was something that appealed to me once when I was first volunteering for Eden Care, and then when I came into my role as a program officer, was one of the obligations as a Muslim that we have on another Muslim is to visit with them when they're sick. Another one is to be a part of their funeral. And there's that in-between point that people forget about, from when you're sick to when you're dying. Death is inevitable in Islam, especially, we all know that. But it's not just about being a Muslim. It's also about, as a serving Muslims, but it's also as a Muslim serving humanity. How do we serve humanity? We do charity work in so many different ways, but what are we doing through our community? How are we supporting those within our community? And, you know, people support people in so many different ways, but that area, I think that you both will agree with, is quite scary, is when people speak about death, that taboo subject of knowing when someone's terminally ill, palliative care, how we're going to support those people. So, you know, at Eden Care, we now are devising training to train people to be able to support those individuals, and have befrienders that have that emergency response, have the compassionate training and the support after their service users pass away, to be able to actually be able to deal with this issue, which is quite a big magnitude, and it's a very important issue. Like I said before, death is inevitable, but in between, where's that bridge? And I think Eden Care and I think St. Joseph's Hospice, something we both agree on, I think, Eyarun, is the importance of making that transition and supporting people in that time is very important. And like I said, as a Muslim, to me, that is a part of serving humanity. It's a part of being there for someone. And in COVID, it's been very prominent that people have passed away in hospitals where chaplains don't have enough knowledge. There's not enough volunteers. There are not enough people with religious knowledge. So Islamic knowledge is, for example, to be able to give that passing or that support to that person in their most difficult time. So having more Muslim people be involved in this, I think I'm quite passionate about as well, being involved in supporting people. So I just wanted to touch on, Eyarun, how you came to know about Eden Care and the work you've seen of Eden Care with the hospice so far.
Okay, so I've been working at St. Joseph's Hospice for about nearly 2 years now. And when I started, I heard the name Eden Care, but I hadn't had time to find out about what you do and what you are about. I knew that you have volunteers that go and support people when they're at the end of life. It only happened last year, just before COVID, and I learnt that one of my community members, so patients or service users, we call them community members. So one of our community members had passed away in the hospice, and it was around February, March, I think just around the lockdown time, and I wasn't at the hospice. I heard that she died there, and I knew she was all alone. She had no family, and she just had one friend. And then I learned that your volunteers, Eden Care volunteers, were with her during that time. And I was just so amazed. I was just so delighted that someone was with her at that time, her last moments. And that's when I thought, okay, let me find out more about Eden Care. And I also, so I explored a little bit more, and I found out that you also helped with sending her body back to Bangladesh. And that's what she'd always wanted. She was really, really passionate about that. Her burial happens in Bangladesh, and your organization had supported her in that. So then I learned, I read up about you, and I was just amazed about the work that you guys did with Grenfell Tower, and all the COVID deaths that you'd helped out with. So you inspired me, kind of thing. Yeah.
The work we do is quite difficult, and alhamdulillah, we have a lot of within the charity itself, we've got a lot of organizations. So in a way, it's a process. So from the process of befriending somebody, for example, at the end of life, to usually people do have family members, some people have friends. It's also supporting those around them in that time, I think, is quite important as well. We've actually had service users that have come to us and said, I'm dealing with this situation where someone I love is passing away, I'm their carer, what do I do? So we start at that base, and it can be, obviously, you just touched on Muslim Burial Fund and stuff like that. There is a process that we go through, and I think the main point is how do we get through to that process? How do we know people have these needs? What needs do they have? Discussing people, what they want when they, people find it very difficult to discuss with someone. When I pass away, I want my burial to be like this. or in my last days, I want this. And I'd like to think that's where we come in. We have someone that's gonna, it's like being a friend, but also being an advocate, because there's so many people, which I'm sure you've been seeing in the hospice yourself, who may have some family members. People argue around death, funerals, deaths. They are usually very difficult times for families. Someone that could be on just for the interest of that community member, as you said. And I know that you also have a volunteering service where you've got compassionate neighbours, I believe, which you just touched on, where they are, we've discussed previously when we've discussed about our working together, is diversifying that pool you have and hoping to kind of bring our volunteers into that pool, where that be language barriers, religious barriers, anything that we can help to diversify that pool. So would you like to speak a bit more about Compassionate Neighbours and what it is exactly about?
So all the things that you mentioned, Sahrish, around the whole about friendship during those life. These are all the things that Compassionate Neighbours is about. I mean, we started back in 2015, and it hits everything that you touched upon. It's about normalizing death and dying in the community. It's about being there for somebody, holding space for that person wherever they are, whether they're angry after they've found out, or whether they're at the last stages, or whether they're trying to navigate their way through different systems, different medical issues and concerns, and how their treatment's going to be, all of that, and our Compassionate Neighbours are to some extent, trained around those things during our training, and also with further training to get that confidence so that they can support the person that they match to during those, days. And yeah.
No. Osama, what when you done this work, obviously you started before I did, what do you think is the thing that people fear most, or volunteers or Compassionate Neighbours, whatever it is, fear most or hesitant to support those at the end of life? Like, what do you think is usually the hang-ups around that topic with people?
I feel like care is a very emotional service. People fear to invest a lot of emotions into that person, and also you're dealing with one person right now, and there's a lot of emotions involved in that. So investing emotion, let's not talk about, otherwise we're going to get emotional on screen. But no, like investing emotionally to someone and then them passing. And this is why I'm sure Eyarun, you do something similar. As Eden Care, the well-being of our volunteers is paramount. So we offer counseling services or support services, talking therapy to any volunteers that need it, because just as much as that person has passed away, that impact can come onto the volunteers as well. And maybe also not being able to fulfill a person's wishes. As Eden Care UK, we have wish list where people are able to express, this is what I need, this is what I want, this is why I've reached out to Eden Care. And I suppose some volunteers have that fear that they're not able to deliver that. And I think what's really important, as a note to anyone that's caring for someone, it's not about the complete delivery, it's about trying. And then that person, that befriendee or that service user, looking at you and saying, this person has at least tried. I think that's really important. But yeah, a lot of people are quite hesitant of emotionally being involved.
Can I just say something there? Can I say something there, Usama? So our Compassionate Neighbours, the way that it works, it's a social movement and it's a network. So all our Compassionate Neighbours get support from one another. So they come to catch-up and development sessions regularly to be able to share what they're going through. But also from the project team, we support them on this journey. And some of our friendships have, it's not all about just end of life. Some of our friendships have been for a long time, say 3 to 4 years as well, because maybe the person has a serious illness and, they're living through that. So it's all the way through. We will make sure that we give our Compassionate Neighbours that support and that confidence, and we're with them, throughout this journey.
I think what you just touched on there, Eyarun, about it being a journey, I think that is a really good way to put it, because the service user that Usama just spoke about, I've grown attached to her, although I've given her a befriender now and I've matched her. And I've smiled because I get really emotional. I think she's been terminally ill. She's had she's 80, in her 80s now. She's had 4 different cancers since she was 50. She says it herself. She's knocked on death's door a number of times. And I think when people say end of life, people are assuming you're going to die next week. It's not the case. People pass away. People go through this whole thing. And it's a conversation I had with someone when my mum passed away. My mum had a stroke, and within 2-3 days, she passed away. We knew 24 hours before that there was nothing they could do. And the question someone always asks me, is it harder to know that someone's going to die? Or is it better, or is it harder that they go away instantly? And that's not an very easy answer to give, I don't think. I'm sure you'd both agree, knowing someone's going to just go, or knowing they've got a certain number of time, or know when they just leave, which one's easier? I don't think any is easier, but how you cope with it is very different, I believe, because you already go through so many emotions when you're going to be this befriender and take this neighbor, however you want to put it, this person you're going to support, you're going to go through every emotion with them. I mean, with my services that I just spoke about, she makes light of her situation now, because I feel like she's dealt with it for so long. But when she says certain things, I get more emotional than she does. Because she's accepted what's going to happen to her. She's accepted, she says, I am terminally ill. She's on a trial to kind of keep her alive a bit longer. But there's no, like she says, there's no guarantee. I might not wake up tomorrow. But actually, we may all not wake up tomorrow. Death is very inevitable. But have that knowledge of that you're going to go. It can get I guess you sometimes, especially if you've got family members, for them, you need to be strong. You need to be like, I'm okay. But at least if you've got somebody maybe from outside of your circle, it could be different. And I think that's the main thing. So Eyarun, with St. Joseph's Hospice, other than the actual compassionate neighbours, how does the hospice work? What is, like you just said, we spoke earlier, you said you do visits. What is the ins and the outs of the actual hospice?
Okay, so the hospice it's like a mini hospital, and it's specialist care that is provided there. We have around about 35 beds, so we have 2 wards, and we also have respite beds, so patients can come there and stay there for 2 weeks, and help them to get better, and then they can go home again. All our care is not provided in the hospice. A lot of it is provided at home because people choose to die in their homes rather than in a hospice. So our doctors and nurses work very hard to make sure that those wishes are adhered to, and that care is provided in people's homes. So just last year we saw around about 2,500 patients in their homes, and the others were in the hospice. We have lots of different departments, and so we have physiotherapists, we have dietitians, complementary therapists. We also have a chaplaincy team, so we have an imam there as well. So the hospice works really, really hard to make sure that all communities are looked after and cared for in the way they want to be cared for. So all the facilities are there. There's prayer rooms. There's like I said, there's the imam. There's even, like washing facilities in the toilets, and you wouldn't get that in a hospital. So St. Joseph's Hospice has tried to accommodate, the needs of the community. So what we do is that we get referrals from hospitals, and where there's a need for a compassionate neighbour, the hospice staff will refer to our project, and we will then take the person on, and we will do home visits to assess them. We will see what their surroundings are and what they want from a compassionate neighbour. So we will do all of that. We'll gather all of that information so that we can make a suitable match. And that's really, really important, that matching process. We look at it. We don't just match anyone with anyone. It has to be that, because it's a friendship. We want a friendship to grow. And that's so important. So our project is slightly different to other befriending projects because it's not a one-sided thing. It's all based on reciprocity. Our compassionate neighbour gets a lot out of the match. They want to learn from the person that they're matched with. And we have amazing friendships that blossom out of that. And our compassionate neighbours are there for a reason. given their time for a reason, and we really, really treasure that. And the other thing is also our compassion neighbors try and encourage the person that they've been matched to or they are matched with, to give them that agency, power to be independent, as independent as possible. So we don't try and do things for the person that we matched to, we try and do things with them. You see, so there's a slight difference.
Yeah, I completely understand that it's not just done for the sake of it, it's actually thought through, because like you just said, it's a friendship that's long lasting. What we'll do is we'll go on a short break now, and then we'll discuss this further after the break.
Okay.
Eden Care UK is a friendly intervention service providing support to people who are terminally ill reaching end of life. We advocate for a high quality of care and enhanced life choices, and challenge the isolation of elderly people through friendship and social activities. This service would not be possible without your support. Please donate edencareuk.com or call 07957 199 328.
So, Osama, I have a question for you. I was just thinking when the break came. There is something I have found, I think Eyarun and me have discussed, I think we had it in the meeting when we had a meeting together as a team, is there's obviously a shortage of diversity in these situations. What can we do? And, there's people watching today. What can we do to encourage people to take that initiative? Seeing the work you've done as well, a lot closer than even I have with these different organizations and through COVID. What can people do, our fellow Muslims, brothers and sisters, do to get involved in such work? What do you think could be encouraging how they could get involved in such work?
Firstly, charity is not just giving money. The Quran says do charity, act charity. It's not just giving charity, but actually do charity. Be active in your time. It's really important that we firstly understand that people are only going to be the ones that are driving the change. They're only going to be the ones that are driving that support. And don't feel like you don't have value. I've said this many a times. Use your skills, your qualifications, your expertise, and use that to help others. So if you're good, we know some sisters who are good at arts and crafts. Use that in a way to fundraise. Use that in a way to perhaps some sort of art therapy. There's so many ways that people can get involved. We as Muslims should be on the front line on any service, and alhamdulillah, we're getting there, and you're seeing a rise in sort of representation of Muslims in different services. But we need people to become more active, whether it's compassionate neighbors, whether it's befrienders, whether it's in an international development project. People need to start to get involved. People fear end of life. End of life is not usually what people associate when it comes to charity work. They see, for example, when you're doing great work in a hospice or hospital or, a care home. So what does it mean when it's charity work? What it means doing it in the charity perspective is we are filling a gap. It's very sad to say that people are actually alone during the end of their life. Imagine that's your brother, that's your sister. The ummah is like one body. That person is alone during the end of their life. When I was with my granddad during his final week, I was spending the nights there. And, they were so mind blown that us as a family were there 7 days a week and nights. The whole time. There was not 1 second where he was alone. And the nurses were like, I can't believe it. There's other people in the wards. This was pre-COVID. But there's other people in the wards to visit them. Nobody has come to visit them. So as Eden Care, especially from an Eden Care perspective, Muslims, brothers, sisters, anyone that's watching, get involved, because we are filling that gap. We are going to become that family member. When you've said that, we are going to develop these friendships. Going out with them, even going to the shop makes such a difference. Sahrish, you've heard this on the phone. That one phone call meant so much to some of our some of our service users. They've said it, that one phone call meant so much to me. So imagine that one visit. Imagine that one help to go to the shop. Imagine that one playing Ludo. Befriending is not just you going there and sitting next to them. And I think me and Sahrish discussed this today, and Anna, befriending is much more than that. let's walk and talk. Let's go for a walk and exercise. Let's
Mm.
go to the mosque. Let's go to all these different areas. And as restrictions relax, Eden Care is going to be offering that as well, and hopefully working with Eyarun as well through Compassionate Neighbours. So everyone getting. Yeah,
I think that is the next step. I think I want to actually bring up the work we want to do together, Eyarun. So obviously we'll be hopefully attending the hospice ourselves very soon, which is something I'm really excited about. I want to you whenever you speak about the hospice, Eyarun, you speak with such passion. So I really want to see it. The thing is, you could look at this and think, so it is a depressing topic to some extent, but how can you make that? Yeah, it's depressing for us, but how can we make it not, is positive the right word to use, but a more better experience for those in that situation, those who have no choice? I think a lot of time, even myself, a few years ago, if you'd asked me about hospice, I'd think death, gloomy, doomed, really depressing. But now I have a different viewpoint generally, even without visiting. As I've grown older, as I've come across more people that are using facilities, it's not a very big thing used within our own communities, which is a good and a bad thing in some ways, because some people, when they could do with the need for a hospice, they still don't reach out because of a stigma within our community, or they're worried that they won't be key community members there, or people that will understand their culture or their religion. And I think that's what Usama touched on. We need volunteers, people to come forward. And it's about serving humanity. And as a Muslim, it's a job. It's our job. You know, visiting the sick as a Muslim is an obligation on another Muslim. Yeah. But what about like I said before, the in-between of that, serving humanity? And it's not just sending money to a charity and some brother somewhere else is going to carry that rice pack to that family in a village. What's happening on our doorstep? There are people dying alone on our doorstep. And I think, we had a team meeting today with Usama, isn't it, where we discussed how do we relax, like you said, Eyarun, that you're going back into doing things with visiting home visits and stuff. And we were talking about how we can go from remote befriending back into face-to-face, you know, and that is something we are now discussing. These changes, that COVID changed everything. And now, inshallah, you know, post-COVID with restrictions, how are things looking from your end, Eyarun? How are things looking with opening things up back at the hospice?
So we're working really hard to transition back to where we were before the pandemic. We are making sure that our compassion neighbours have had both of their vaccinations. We're going and visiting people's homes, the community members' homes, so that we check that it's safe for them to go in, that there's, you know, there's space or there's a front garden where they can meet. So we're working really hard to get things back up and running again, because what we found is that all our community members wanted face to face. I mean, they just managed, you know, they all accepted that it had to be phone. But I think they're all looking for their compassionate neighbours coming back, and, you know, every time I speak to one of them, they're like, we don't care, let them come back in, you know, let them come back, you know. So we're looking forward to that. And I can see a couple of months where we'll have all of that, and hopefully there won't be a third wave. And we will manage it. We will manage it. I think with the vaccinations, it's helping. With the PPE, it's helping. With the testing, it's helping. So all of those things will be in place. Yeah.
I think that is.
I think a lot of charities need to give that, charities, hospices. I think we have a responsibility to the public to give that notice that we are taking these steps. The government has said you can meet outdoors in a group of 6, so the rule still applies. We're taking these steps to make sure that you're safe and the person you're helping is safe, you know. So people do get involved, you know, it's not, don't stop.
Yeah, no, like risk assessments, it's not just go everybody meet, but, you know, risk assessments is something we've all discussed and they're very important. But I think taking precautions for yourself as well as the individual you're going to see is so important. But these people crave, like, seeing people, having that personal, you know, touch. I think it's like touch is a difficult one, obviously, with COVID, but just generally having that presence of somebody is so different from them being on the phone. And that relationship building as well. So if we've done matches now over the phone for people, and it takes longer, I feel, to build a bond.
Yes, it does.
And with me, I get attached to everybody. That's my biggest flaw. Someone knows, and they tend to get attached to me for that reason as well. So every time that breaking period between matching and taking on service users, I usually am the one that kind of speaks to them, keeps them updated. It's not just we get referrals, then we lead them to it. Until we've matched them with somebody, we go through the process of, checking in on them, ensuring they're okay. It's not just like a program. I done this work, and Osama feels the same, I think, is we done it because we feel passionate about this. End of life is something which is one of the most primary programs we have, is I feel very passionate about, because I couldn't imagine not having anybody. I mean, when my mum passed away, what Osama said, like the nurses were shocked. My mum had me, whether she was awake or not, she had me. And there are so many people that are leaving this dunya, like this world, with nobody by their side. And, hospitals do a lot, palliative care, medications, action plans. But what about that personalization part of it? Where does that fit in? And that's where I think our volunteers come in. It comes back to volunteers. And I think that is the important thing, having more diverse volunteers. While you've been at the hospice, Eyarun, have you found there's been quite a lack of service users and volunteers within our communities, in our faith? How do you find that's been?
Well, we have around about 12% of patients are Muslim. But I want that to increase. This facility is there. This wonderful, beautiful facility is in Hackney, on everybody's doorsteps. They should be able to use it, and it's free. It's a very high quality, service that's there, and also volunteer. The compassionate neighbours. We have a diverse group of volunteers, but the thing is, I want more from the Tower Hamlets communities. I want there to be, compassionate neighbours from the Somali community, from the Bangladeshi community, from the Vietnamese and Chinese community in Tower Hamlets, because we need to be representing, the people that we're going to be working with. It's our community members will only feel comfortable with people that they can be friends with. You see, that they will get some understanding, and it works well with other cultures as well. But it's important that we have an amount of people, an amount of volunteers or compassionate neighbours that reflect the communities that we're working with.
Oh no, I agree. I think it comes down to, for example, if there's in COVID, I read an article about people passing away, and our Muslim brothers and sisters didn't have anybody to give them, what happens once, before death. People want to read the Quran, people want recitation, people want things. You want someone to pray for you or with you. And a lot of people in these situations, if you read articles and you read journals, people went without that. And I feel like if there was more awareness and more people within our Muslim community, with Muslims, it doesn't have to be just Asians. Muslim is such a diverse, broad religion. Islam is, and we have so many people from different backgrounds. Our brothers and sisters that are in these situations, or are alone, or don't have strong family unit or friends, or however have you, they need us. In that sense, I mean, when I say, it doesn't have to necessarily mean I treat everybody the same, but as we're discussing, I think from an Islamic perspective, I think it's so important that we ensure that everybody gets that opportunity, like equally, Islamically. What can we do for them? Recitation, dua, dawah. Some people near the end of life turn to God. Some people may have not had God in their life, and then come down the line, they turn to God. And how do they get that support? Where is that support coming in from our faith? That is one of the main things I think I touch on quite often, is the importance of having a diverse pool of people, because people can feel comfortable with anybody, but what about the support? So there's having that friendship, but also the support. What do you think, Usama?
I agree.
Sahrish, sorry. I was going to, sorry, Usama.
No, go on, it's fine. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to touch upon the language, because I think as well as the religious aspect, the language is so key, because, at a very critical time in their lives, if they can express, what they want in their languages, because a lot of the people that we work with don't speak English. So if they had the same language, if their compassionate neighbor or their volunteer speaks the same language, at least they'll be able to share and express their concerns and their wishes. So that's why I think, to diversify the pool, it's really, really important.
I agree. As
Sorry,
Eden
Summer.
Care, we're trying to diversify our volunteer base, making sure that we have a diverse range of languages, and people are actually coming to Eden Care and saying, "Can you provide us with befrienders through our community hubs?" You know, Wolfen Forest, for example, they have a lack of language callers, and they want us to come on board. I think that's really important to say, to show, look, we are BAME led, BAME inspired, BAME empowered organization where we want to promote all people, and you know, just touch base on befriending. Like, it's the dawah aspect of it is also very important, because the Prophet ﷺ, right, he helped a woman with her load, right, and he helped her, ﷺ, right, and the entire time, I mean, hopefully your service users don't do this, but the entire time she was insulting him. She didn't know it was him, but she was insulting him, saying the prophet's this, the prophet's that, there's a prophet saying this, or there's one God, and she was mocking the prophet, but she didn't know it was him, and he was just standing with her, helping her with her load and listening, which is really important. Some people just want to vent, and that's okay. Like, and that's what we try to do with our work as well. And he was listening and listening, and then at the end, she's like, "Oh, by the way, who are you?" And he said, "I'm the prophet." And so, and she instantly made shahada there. That was dawah in itself, and I think dawah, it can be done through palliative care. Dawah can be done through befriending. Dawah can be done through good character. You know, so it's not all about, although it's commendable, standing on the street with a table and leaflets, and I've done that myself back in the days. So I understand that aspect as well, and that's important aspect as well. But being a friend, you know, as Eden Care, we're trying to break up befriending as just being a friend during a difficult time. Some people don't have that, and we've all experienced loneliness. That was our topic last week. Imagine loneliness during a time you don't know. You know, none of us know, but be honest. If the doctor says you're reaching end of life, that's a different type of feeling. Right now, you know, I can say, "Oh, I'm going to die tomorrow," but there's no like medical confirmation. But when a doctor says you're end of life, you're terminally ill, that's when it hits you. And then if there's nobody there, you know, and it's like Sarah said, it's the rights of a Muslim. Visit the sick, you know, and that doesn't mean, you know, sick as in just physically sick. It might be some sort of mental health issues. They might be going through some hard time with anxiety. It means if they need you, be there for them. And I think that's a quality of a Muslim, I think. So hopefully people do get involved, inshallah.
Yeah, I think you touched on the point of the biggest form of dawah is your character.
Mm-hmm.
How you represent yourself, your character, how you carry yourself, I believe, and it's something I say hand on heart, is the biggest form of dawah. And the other point I wanted to make is what you touched on. It was a brother who done a lot of charity work. I've forgotten his last name, Ali. He was Australian, and he said something. He goes, "Allah told me constantly that I'm dying. I'm going to die. Death is inevitable. But it took a man in a suit to tell me I'm dying for me to take it seriously." But it is true. You know, we all know we're going to pass away, but someone tells you, a man in a suit behind us says, "Sorry, you've not got long." That feeling, I mean, I've been told from as a family member, my mum was going to not have nothing left to live, that wasn't going to live. The support, when you reach out to family members for support, it's very different. We're all grieving. We're all going through that emotion, or, you know, the person passing away, they'd be like, "Oh, you know, you're okay," checking up on them. But sometimes the worry and the care can be overbearing. So having someone that's there to kind of support them, I'm sure you've seen it at the hospice, Eyarun, having someone to kind of, obviously they're there to support them because they're in, you know, at the end of life, but it could be a different relationship. It's not that overbearing. "Are you okay? You need to make sure you're taking your medication." It's checking in on them, being that friend to them. And it's not always people that are just lonely, I would say. There's people that I'm assuming come to the hospice, even people, service users we have, that aren't completely lonely, but there's a gap. There's something they need, and they need that from us, and we're here to fill that gap. Is that the same as at the hospice? Like, you've got people that've got family, but they need others.
Sometimes the service user or the patient or the community member, as we call them, hide things from their family members because they don't want to burden their family members or worry. So they're dealing with it or coping with it on their own. And that's where a compassionate neighbor can be very, very helpful. They will be the person that is detached from the family. So it's okay to tell them about their worries and anxieties and the concerns, and share that with them rather than the family member. And that's where it really, really is very helpful. So I find a lot of our community members have good family networks, yet they want a compassionate neighbor. You see, so
No.
Yeah, with Eden Care, we take that approach, a very similar approach. But what we also say is, we want to support your family, even if you do pass. We're going to be
The bereavement support aspect.
supporting your family even afterwards. 30 in our Eden Care service as well is that after death care, the families are going through grief. So it's the full cycle that 13 Rivers Trust tries to copy. It's like we've got the befriending, then the end of life, then the rapid response when they're dying, then the burying of that person, and then the grief side as well. So we're trying to go through the whole timeline of events as well. That's very unique to us.
I think, yeah, I mean, we've not got long left. And I just wanted to say that the work we're doing, and just Usama, what you just said, is we have, Alhamdulillah, 13 Rivers Trust as a whole. Eden Care is a big part of that charity. It's a program in itself, but there's actually a whole process we have here to support people. And there's obviously a need. We are bridging a gap that is, definitely there. And I think that is why, Eyarun, when you came to us and we spoke and the meetings we've had, I feel quite passionate about the work we're going to be doing together in regards to, diversifying the pool of compassionate neighbours, the training and everything else and so on, because this isn't going to finish. It's not like an out of season or in season thing. This is forever. So we can be the change. And I feel like, I think I said it to you when I approached you, that as two Muslim sisters in this work, we are seeing this firsthand. Do we see a gap? I do. And you said, I do too. Okay, so that's where I want, and it's my Ramadan TV is the perfect place to do it. We're all here. We're all giving money. We're doing donations. There's other things you can do. So please, if anyone wants to volunteer, anyone wants to be a part and support us in our work all together or wants anything else, info@edencare.co.uk. Any questions, any donations, anything else, everything counts. The work we're doing on our doorstep in the UK is important. We are bridging a gap. We are doing very important work. And we have, we've got case studies upon case studies of people we're supporting. And you can be a part of that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just going to make one final point, is that you've hit the nail on the head, that we're filling the gap, and that yes, you can feed the poor internationally, because you can do a lot of international work, but this work is as humanitarian and it is as important. Death can't escape anyone. We hope that one day poverty will go from certain countries. We hope that one day agriculture will improve here. But death, there's no doubt about it. Even if you live in the most Western environments, people need end-of-life care and people need befriending. Like Sahrish said, info@edencareuk.com. Please support our work. Get involved, but also please donate generously, inshallah.
Thank you, Eyarun, for joining us today. I actually really appreciate it. I feel like the work you're doing is so important. And thank you as always, Usama, for being my buffer. I'm always like, Usama, I need you. But we've got an amazing team. We're doing amazing work. We're working with the hospice. Join in. Do that humanitarian work on your doorstep. People need you. Inshallah, have a lovely Ramadan. And thank you for tuning in.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.